My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez, and I need you to understand something before we go any further. The woman you're about to see being ambushed at her own mother's 70th birthday party, the psychiatrist whose entire family of 13 decided needed an intervention. That woman saved more lives than her sister, the therapist, could ever imagine. But before we dive into the moment that destroyed my family forever, tell us where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below, because what happened to me could happen to anyone who carries secrets too heavy for their family to understand. And if this story resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed. Tomorrow, I'm sharing something that will change how you see family loyalty forever. The moment I walked through my mother's front door that Saturday afternoon, I knew something was wrong. Not because of my CIA training in behavioral analysis or my expertise in detecting deception. I knew because my family, all 13 of them, were arranged in the living room like they'd been positioned by a stage director, and silence fell like a hammer when I entered. "Elena, sweetheart," my mother said, her voice carrying that particular tremor that meant she'd been crying. "Come sit down. We need to talk." The semicircle of relatives parted to reveal my sister Maya in the center chair, wearing her clinical therapist credentials like armor. Her Riverside Community Mental Health badge caught the afternoon light streaming through Mom's lace curtains, and the manila folder in her lap might as well have been a loaded weapon. "This is an intervention," Maya announced, her voice carrying the practiced authority of someone who'd rehearsed this moment. "We're here because we love you, Elena, and we're concerned about your mental health." I set down the birthday gift I'd brought, an antique music box I'd found in Prague during my last assignment, and calculated my options. 13 family members, 2 exits, and my sister holding what looked suspiciously like legal documents. "Maya," I said carefully, taking the designated seat across from her, "what exactly are you concerned about?" She opened her folder with theatrical precision, revealing printed emails, photographs, and what appeared to be surveillance notes. "Your delusions, Elena, your persistent, elaborate delusions about working for the government." Maya's tone was clinical, detached. "For 3 years, you've maintained this fantasy about having a classified job that you can't discuss. You take mysterious phone calls, you disappear for weeks, you claim you can't tell us where you've been or what you're doing." "Because I can't," I said simply, "because it's not real." Maya's professional composure cracked. "Elena, you're a psychiatrist with a private practice. I've checked. You have 6 regular patients. That doesn't explain your apartment in Georgetown, your expensive car, or these supposed government contacts you reference but never introduced to the family." In my jacket pocket, my encrypted phone vibrated with what was probably my handler, wondering why I'd gone dark during a family gathering. I couldn't answer it. Not now, not without confirming their suspicions about my paranoid behavior. "I understand this is concerning to you," I began, using the de-escalation techniques I'd taught to field agents. "But no, Elena, no more deflection." Maya stood, pulling out a second set of documents. "I've consulted with colleagues. Your behavior patterns are consistent with delusional disorder, grandiose type. The secrecy, the inability to provide evidence of your claims, the elaborate nature of your supposed classified work. It all fits." That's when I noticed the 2 men standing by the kitchen door. They wore EMT uniforms, but their stance, their positioning, these weren't standard paramedics. These were psychiatric transport specialists. Maya hadn't just organized an intervention, she'd organized a commitment. "You brought a transport team?" I kept my voice level, even as my mind raced through the implications. "I can, and I will." She produced the final document from her folder, a 72-hour psychiatric hold petition. "I've already spoken with Dr. Reginald at Riverside Psychiatric. He's reviewed my documentation and agreed that you pose a potential danger to yourself. Your delusions are escalating." The irony was suffocating. I'd spent the last month developing psychological profiles of terrorist cell leaders, and my own sister was diagnosing me with delusions. My phone buzzed again, 3 times in rapid succession, the emergency pattern. Something was happening that required immediate response. "I need to take this call," I said, reaching for my phone. "No." Maya's voice was sharp. "No more mysterious phone calls, no more feeding the delusion." She nodded to the transport team. "Gentlemen, I think we're ready." One of the transport specialists stepped forward, his hand moving to the restraints on his belt. "Dr. Vasquez, we can do this the easy way or the hard way." I looked around the room at 13 faces, family members who'd known me since birth, who'd celebrated my medical school graduation, who'd never once asked themselves why a psychiatrist with 6 patients could afford a Georgetown apartment. The easy way, I said quietly, making the calculation that resistance would only reinforce their belief in my paranoia. But I need you all to remember this moment. Remember that I came here to celebrate Mom's birthday. Remember that I'm cooperating completely. Of course we'll remember, Maya said, mistaking my documentation for acceptance. We'll remember this as the day we got you help. As the transport specialist approached with the soft restraints, I made one last attempt. Maya, call Dr. Elizabeth Morrison at Johns Hopkins. Tell her what you're doing. She can explain. Dr. Morrison was your residency supervisor 8 years ago, Maya interrupted. I already called her. She said she hasn't heard from you since you left the program early. Another lie, Elena. The restraints were soft but secure, designed to look humane while being completely inescapable. As they fastened them, my encrypted phone buzzed one final time before Maya confiscated it, dropping it into an evidence bag like she was collecting a delusion made manifest. This is for your own good, she said, her clinical mask finally slipping to reveal something that looked almost like satisfaction. When you're stable again, you'll thank me. No, I thought as they led me toward the door, past my mother's sobs and my family's shameful relief. When you learn the truth, you'll never forgive yourself. But I couldn't say that. Couldn't warn her that she'd just compromised national security operations. Couldn't explain that the delusions she'd documented were the reason American soldiers were coming home alive. As the doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of Maya through the window, standing on Mom's porch with our family clustered behind her, like she'd just saved them from something dangerous. She had no idea how wrong she was. She had no idea what she'd just done. And in 72 hours, when my extraction team realized I'd gone dark during active operations, she was going to learn exactly how real my delusions were. The transport van pulled away from my childhood home, carrying me toward a psychiatric ward that was about to become a crash course in national security for my well-meaning, catastrophically ignorant family. Maya thought she was saving me from my fantasies. Instead, she'd just signed her own professional death warrant. Growing up in Miami, Maya and I were supposed to be equals. Same parents, same opportunities, same potential. But by the time I was 8 and she was 11, the comparison had already started poisoning our relationship. Why can't you be more like Elena? Our teachers would ask her. Elena finished the test 20 minutes early. Elena's reading at a college level. I never asked to be the measuring stick against which my older sister was judged, but that's what I became. And Maya never forgave me for it. The real divide began in high school. Maya struggled through AP psychology while I was secretly reading graduate-level psychiatric journals in the library. She studied for weeks to pull B's. I absorbed the material like a sponge and scored perfect marks without trying. You always have to be the special one, she told me, the night before my early admission interview at Johns Hopkins. I was 17, she was 20, and struggling through her sophomore year at Florida State. Can't you just be normal for once? I wanted to tell her that being special wasn't a choice I'd made, that my brain simply worked differently. But I knew she'd hear arrogance instead of explanation, so I kept quiet. Johns Hopkins was where everything changed, not just because of the psychiatric residency program, but because of Dr. Elizabeth Morrison. She wasn't just my supervisor, she was a legend in the field of trauma psychology. What the other residents didn't know was that she also consulted for a certain government agency. Your mind works differently, Elena, she told me after observing my work with a particularly challenging patient. You see patterns others miss. You understand deception on an instinctual level. Have you ever considered that psychiatry might not be your only calling? That conversation led to another, more private one. Then a background check so thorough they interviewed my kindergarten teacher. Then a series of tests that had nothing to do with medicine and everything to do with psychological resilience and analytical thinking. The CIA recruitment process took months. They needed to know not just that I could keep secrets, but that I could live with them, that I could maintain completely separate identities without losing myself in the process. We need psychiatrists, my recruiter explained during one of our meetings in a Baltimore coffee shop. Not just for therapy, but for operational psychology. developing interrogation resistance protocols, creating psychological profiles of targets. Your clinical training combined with your natural abilities makes you invaluable. The decision to accept their offer meant lying to everyone I loved. The CIA created a cover story. I was leaving my residency early due to burnout, starting a small private practice. Maya had actually been supportive, probably because my apparent failure made her feel better about her own struggles. "See, even perfect Elena hits walls sometimes," she'd said, with poorly concealed satisfaction. The training that followed was unlike anything in medical school. Yes, there was tradecraft, surveillance detection, secure communications, basic self-defense, but the real focus was on weaponizing psychology. How to build trust in minutes, how to detect deception through micro-expressions, how to create psychological pressure without leaving physical marks. I maintained my cover as a struggling psychiatrist with a small practice. 6 carefully selected patients who thought they were seeing Dr. Elena Vasquez for anxiety and depression. They had no idea their therapist spent her other hours developing psychological protocols that would be used in black sites around the world. Meanwhile, Maya was building her reputation as a dedicated community therapist. She worked with addiction, trauma, family counseling, real work, important work, but she couldn't stop comparing our lives. "It's not fair," she told our mother during one Sunday dinner. "I work 60 hours a week with dozens of patients, and Elena sees 6 people and lives like she's rich. Something doesn't add up." The operations I worked on during those years would have made her understand if I could have told her. The teenage girl in Syria who'd been brainwashed by ISIS, I spent 3 weeks helping her reconstruct her identity. She's in college now. The American diplomat who'd been psychologically tortured in Iran, I developed the protocols that helped him recover. The sleeper cells we identified through psychological profiling, attacks that never happened because we understood their minds well enough to predict their moves. But Maya saw none of this. She saw her little sister living an inexplicably comfortable life while she struggled with student loans and difficult patients. "I think Elena is involved in something illegal," she told our cousin Roberto one Christmas, not knowing I could hear her from the kitchen. "Maybe drugs, maybe fraud. How else do you explain it?" The breaking point came 3 months before the intervention. I'd been in Pakistan for 2 weeks, working with an asset who'd been psychologically broken by the Taliban. I'd missed our cousin's wedding, telling the family I was at a psychiatric conference in Denver. Maya called when I got back, and I was too exhausted to maintain my usual guard. "Another conference?" she'd said, voice dripping skepticism. "That's the 4th one this year. Funny how I can never find these conferences online." "Maya, I'm tired. Can we not do this?" "No, we need to do this. You're lying to everyone, Elena. I'm a therapist. I know delusional behavior when I see it. Either you're involved in something illegal, or you've constructed an elaborate fantasy about your importance. Either way, you need help." She'd hung up before I could respond. Later, I learned she'd started building her case that very night, documenting my absences, consulting with colleagues about delusional disorders, building the theoretical framework that would justify committing her own sister. The call from my handler came on a Thursday. "We've detected some unusual activity around your cover identity," David said carefully. "Someone's been making inquiries, professional inquiries." "Maya," I said without hesitation. "Our analysis suggests she's building toward something. We can intervene if necessary." "No." The word came out sharper than intended. "No intervention. She's my sister." "Elena, this could compromise your cover. If you're placed in psychiatric hold—" "I know." I cut him off. "But if you intervene, it confirms her suspicions. Let me handle it." 3 days later, the invitation to Mom's birthday arrived. Maya's handwriting on the envelope, not Mom's. The trap was set, and I walked into it with eyes wide open, hoping against hope that my sister would see reason before it was too late. She didn't. And now, as the transport van carried me toward Riverside Psychiatric, I wondered if the sister I'd tried to protect from the truth would survive learning it. Because the intervention was over, but the real consequences were just beginning. Maya thought she was saving me from my delusions. Instead, she'd started a chain of events that would strip away every comfortable lie our family had ever told themselves about who we were to each other. The intake room at Riverside Psychiatric smelled like every government facility I'd ever evaluated. industrial disinfectant failing to mask human desperation. The irony burned. I'd designed protocols for places like this. Now, I was on the wrong side of the desk. Dr. Vasquez, the intake nurse, read from Maya's paperwork. Your sister indicates you've been experiencing delusions of grandeur, specifically related to government employment. I recognize the technique, open-ended. Let the patient reveal their pathology. I'd taught this to CIA interrogators. I work for the government, I said. My sister doesn't believe me. She made a note. Behind her, transport specialists waited like guards. My wrists still showed restraint marks, which she photographed for documentation. What kind of government work? The trap. Truth confirmed Maya's diagnosis. Lies would surface later. I'm not at liberty to discuss specifics. Another note. I could read her thoughts. Classic paranoid response. Dr. Reginald entered, mid-50s, tired eyes, the look of someone who'd done too many emergency evaluations. Maya had chosen well. He'd be thorough, but incurious about inconsistencies. Dr. Vasquez, I understand you're a psychiatrist yourself. That must make this particularly difficult. What's difficult is being committed for telling the truth. His practiced smile never wavered. Your sister mentions an expensive Georgetown apartment despite only 6 patients. How do you explain that? Investments, I lied. Which investments? I'm not comfortable discussing my finances. More notes, more symptoms. Maya had weaponized my operational security into evidence of mental illness. These government contacts, can you provide names? Verification? My handler's emergency number burned in my memory. One call would end this, but it would also compromise operations in Berlin, the terrorist profile I was developing for Yemen. Lives hung in the balance. I cannot or will not. Both. Dr. Reginald set down his pen. Your presentation is consistent with delusional disorder. The inability to verify your claims, combined with family concerns and evasive responses, suggests a break from reality. You're evaluating me based on incomplete information from a biased source. My sister has resented me since childhood. She's weaponizing her therapeutic training. That's quite an accusation. It's an accurate assessment, but we both know paranoid ideation about family sounds better in your report. His expression tightened. No psychiatrist likes being read by a patient. I'm placing you on an hour hold, general psychiatric unit. We'll reassess in 3 days. They took everything with clinical efficiency. Phone, wallet, the titanium device that looked like a key fob but was actually an emergency beacon. The nurse cataloged each item, pausing at the beacon. What's this? Panic button. For my car? She shrugged and bagged it. Somewhere in Langley, an alert had triggered, protocols activating. But for now, I was alone. The ward was textbook, common area, bolted beds, reinforced windows, 23 other patients in various crises. I recognized them all. Manic, depressed, psychotic. I'd treated hundreds like them. Now I was one of them. Room 12, the orderly said. Dinner at 6, group at 7, lights out at 10. My room was sparse but clean. Single bed, desk, bathroom without a door. Anti-suicide protocols. I sat and considered my options. 72 hours. I could maintain cover that long. But something felt wrong. The emergency buzzing before they'd taken my phone. The Berlin operation needing my assessment. Monday's congressional briefing I couldn't miss. A knock interrupted my planning. A woman peered in, mid-40s, hollow eyes, institutional pallor. You're the new one, the doctor. Elena. Patricia, though they insist I'm Susan. Her laugh held no humor. 6 weeks here, my family thinks I'm crazy too. What's your story? She glanced down the hall, stepped closer. State Department, low level, filing, data entry. But I saw things. Documents that shouldn't exist. Operations never authorized. When I tried reporting it, suddenly I'm paranoid. My blood chilled. Either Patricia was genuinely ill, or she was another casualty of the system I served. Someone who'd seen too much, been discredited rather than eliminated. Interesting, I said carefully. You believe me? Not a question. The others look at me like I'm broken, but you know I'm telling the truth. She left before I could respond. I lay back, staring at the ceiling, wondering how many patients here weren't ill, but inconvenient. Outside, Maya was probably telling our mother she'd done the right thing, that I was finally getting help, that in 3 days, I'd thank her. She had no idea that in 3 days, my handler's patience would expire. She had no idea the federal government didn't lose track of its assets, and she had absolutely no idea what happened to civilians who interfered with national security operations. The fluorescent lights hummed as I began counting, not for calm, but to mark time. 71 hours, 43 minutes until my hold expired, unless someone came for me first. My mind drifted to the Berlin asset who needed extraction protocols, the Yemen cell whose psychological profile could prevent an attack. Every hour I spent here was an hour they operated without oversight. Down the hall, someone screamed, the sound quickly muffled by orderlies. Standard night shift chaos, but my trained ear caught something else. Footsteps too measured for staff, too purposeful for patients. I forced myself to breathe normally. 71 hours, 42 minutes. The footsteps passed. In the morning, Dr. Reginald would expect me to participate in group therapy, share my delusions with other patients, submit to the very techniques I'd perfected for breaking down resistance in enemy combatants. The irony was perfect. The psychiatrist who'd written the manual on psychological manipulation, trapped by her own expertise, condemned by her own success. But Maya had made one crucial error. She'd assumed the government would abandon an asset who'd been compromised. She'd assumed wrong. 71 hours, 40 minutes. The countdown continued, but I knew, with the certainty that came from years of reading patterns others missed, that I wouldn't be here for all of them. The only question was who would come first, my handler's extraction team, or the people who wanted to ensure I never made it to Monday's briefing. Either way, Maya was about to learn that some delusions are more real than family. The ward hums beneath flickering fluorescent bulbs, a low electric heartbeat that never quite syncs with my own. I catalog everything the moment I'm escorted past the nurse's station. Secure doors on a 30-second delay, cameras positioned just high enough that patients forget they're watched, line of sight to every room. I designed a layout like this for an overseas facility 5 years ago. Seeing it turned against me is almost funny. Room 12 is a box of institutional optimism. Calming blue walls, a single bed bolted to the floor, a desk too narrow to hide beneath. I sit on the mattress and test the frame. Reinforced steel, rounded edges, anti-ligature. My fingerprints are already on the patent paperwork the hospital unknowingly licensed. At 1800, an orderly slides a dinner tray through the door slot. Turkey loaf, powdered potatoes, a plastic sport. The menu matches the psychological disruption diet I authored. Low sugar, low starch, designed to blunt manic spikes. Maya would call that irony. I call it procedure. I eat because agents who don't eat make mistakes. Next morning, 7 patients form a ragged semicircle in the common room. Dr. Harris, affable in rimless glasses, once spent a summer at Quantico learning advanced rapport tactics from me. Recognition flickers behind his eyes before training overrides it. He asks me to share why I'm here. Operational security mistaken for insanity, I say, tone neutral. A bald man 2 chairs down snickers. Ex-military posture, tattooed knuckles. You with the agency? He asks. I don't answer, but my micropause is enough. Kabul, 19, he grins. You shut down the black site after that friendly fire mess. If he knows that, the file on that op has leaked, or he's something worse. Harris redirects the group, but Mark keeps smiling. Message received. I'm not the only weaponized mind in the room. After lights out Patricia, the State Department clerk who insists her name is Susan, slips into my doorway. Orderlies ignore her. She moves like a ghost, unthreatening, invisible. They watch me through the vents, she whispers. Someone always watches, I reply. She presses a scrap of paper into my palm. Check your panic button. They didn't deactivate it. I disassemble the titanium beacon under the blankets. The LED is dark, yet the backup magnetometer thrums faintly. Still active, just muted. Good girl, Patricia. Or Susan. Visitation day. Maya appears with a folder and the brittle confidence of someone who thinks she's winning. She slides journal articles under the plexi. Shared psychotic disorder, grandiose delusion. Read these with an open mind and they might release you, she says. I note that I peer-reviewed half of them. That's part of the illness, she counters, co-opting reality to reinforce the fantasy. If I deny the truth, you'll have me for life, I answer. Her jaw tightens. The sister who once braided my hair retreats behind righteous zeal as she signals the guard. Back in group, Harris tries cognitive restructuring. Let's explore alternative explanations, he offers. Alternative explanations are the cornerstone of interrogation resistance, I remind him, quoting page 74 of the curriculum I wrote. The room falls silent. Even Mark looks impressed. Harris ends the session 15 minutes early, an admission of tactical defeat. At 3:12, alarms blare. Mark charges down the hall with a staff keycard, eyes wild. They're coming for you, he hisses, so I'll collect the bounty first. Extraction breach rumors then. I feint left, wrench his wrist into a joint lock, and kick the keycard beneath the bed. Orderlies flood the corridor with restraints and sedatives. As they drag him away, he snarls, "See you in Kabul, doctor." Not if I see him first. Dawn. Harris's hands tremble around his clipboard. Security reviewed the footage, he says. That was impressive. He confesses that a contact at Langley confirmed the existence, though not the contents, of my personnel file. A crack in the narrative, finally. I tell him to keep quiet for his own sake. He scribbles a single line on the commitment order and signs, "Release recommended. Insufficient evidence of ongoing psychosis. The attending physician must agree at 1500. I have just shaved 48 hours off my sentence." The beacon in my pocket vibrates twice. Extraction window confirmed. The ward clock reads 14:57. Patricia appears one last time, eyes shining. "They'll call me crazy, but I know you're real," she whispers. I squeeze her hand. Reality isn't a consensus. Stay safe. 3 minutes to freedom, 2 potential threats left. One sister about to learn the difference between delusion and classified silence. The lock on room 12 releases and the ward's electric heartbeat drones on, oblivious. The instant the maglock clicks open, I slip into the corridor, pulse steady, eyes already mapping every line of sight like a live schematic. 19 spaces to the junction, 2 cameras blinded by the maintenance override. I wired through the nurse station terminal at breakfast, one orderly distracted by a fire alarm loop humming in his earpiece. Dr. Harris spots me, hesitates, then nods once, a silent transfer of complicity, and drops his clipboard in the doorway to block the camera on the far wall. I move past him without a word, swipe his master badge, and reach the stairwell just as the first code white squawks across the PA. 3 floors up, the roof door is alarmed, but the circuit is already grounded by the beacon's failsafe. I push through into blinding daylight and taste free air, hot and metallic like blood on a coin. A tilt-rotor drone hovers beyond the ledge, downwash scattering my hair, pilot unseen. I brace for the leap when a voice barks my name, Maya, panting, cheeks flushed from the climb. She waves a stack of discharge papers as if bureaucracy could anchor me. "You can still walk out the front, Elena," she pleads. "Admit the fantasy. Come home." I step back from the edge, not to surrender, but to close the distance. Her eyes search mine for the sister she thinks she remembers, and I almost let her see her. "One day you'll learn why the truth needed silence," I say, and press Harris's badge into her hand. "Until then, tell them I never touched you." Sirens swell below. Mark's howl echoes from a rec yard window, sedatives wearing thin. No more lag time. I pivot, sprint, and launch off the parapet into the drone's open bay, body flung horizontal like a diver piercing water. Magnetic clamps bite the harness. The hatch seals as Mia's outstretched cry flattens against the rotor's roar. Inside, the cabin is dark, save for a single green diode on a secure briefcase, my next directive. I strap in, tether to the comm, and the pilot's voice, tinny and familiar, filters through. "Patricia. Told you reality isn't a consensus," she says, calm now that the walls have glass instead of vents. Below, the psychiatric ward shrinks to a sterile geometry of asphalt and beige concrete, an anthill unaware the queen has flown. I watch until it blurs, then shut my eyes, letting the engine's vibration overwrite every hospital heartbeat still echoing in my chest. The op isn't over. Mark's leak needs cauterizing, Langley will demand debrief, Maya will marshal lawyers and journalists, but for the next 90 minutes of flight time, my mission profile is one word: survive. I crack the briefcase, skim the dossier, coordinates in the Carpathians, codename Zero Delta, asset retrieval classified above my pay grade. Good. Forward motion beats retrospection. I seal the case, lean back, and breathe deep as clouds swallow the cockpit windows, each white swell erasing the ward's blue walls, the plexi, the turkey loaf, the sister's disappointment, until nothing remains but the steady thrum of blades and the blank page of sky waiting for a new script. The drone claws east along a polar arc, refuels over the Baltic, then knifes south toward the Carpathians. I stay belted, memorizing the Zero Delta brief while Patricia flies by. Dead reckoning. Target, Dr. Eli Varga, 74. Romanian linguist now held by a mercenary group called Black Inference in a mountain monastery. Varga once decoded a dialect embedded in neutrino bursts. Data worth more than oil. Langley wants him breathing and his research unread. Patricia hands me a St. Michael icon. Carbon frame hides a spectrum key, she says. I slide it beside a suppressed Glock and 2 flash wafers. We set down on a scree shelf 2 clicks from the monastery. 90 minutes, Patricia warns. I nod and run. Snow crunches beneath dwarf pines. The rusted gate is unlocked, so I slip into a courtyard where angels peel from frescoed walls. Russian voices echo. A lone guard steps out to smoke. 2 subsonic rounds drop him. His earpiece mentions a professor in the crypt. Inside the nave, incense fights diesel fumes from portable generators humming beside ancient pews. I slip a pair of light intensifier goggles into a pocket, plant a microcharge on the generator, and press on. The altar conceals a trapdoor. Stone steps spiral into skull-lined chambers. Dr. Varga, I whisper. A cough guides me to a frail man clutching a USB like a rosary. Agency? He asks. I nod, pocket the drive, cut his cuffs. Footsteps echo above, our window shrinks. We race toward a drainage tunnel, Mercs fire. I lob a flash wafer. White silence that steals sight without shattering relics. At the grate, I press the icon. Lock clicks. Outside is sheer cliff. Patricia hovers beyond, ramp extended. I clip Varga's harness to mine and jump. Magnetic claws bite, ramp slams, rotors roar. Bullets ping the fuselage. I sedate Varga. Langley reroutes us to Krakow, then adds a note. Mark, the Baldex operator from the ward, escaped custody, likely in pursuit. Engine 2 sputters, filter sabotage. I rig a decoy, flash wafer wired to a thermal blanket. Missile alarm screams. Patricia dumps the flare. Seeker follows. Explosion blooms astern. Fuel sinks fast. We divert to Poprad, a Slovak tourist airport with lax security. Approaching Poprad, mountain silhouettes glide beneath moonlight like submerged whales. I draw up a fallback tree. Diversion Alpha, fuel fire. Extraction Bravo, freight rail, or Charlie, culvert, if the airport locks down. The plan partly survives contact. Ramp drops. Patricia leads Varga. I follow 10 meters back, scanning. Mark waits near a baggage cart, suppressed cig in hand. Crowd gasps as I shove a luggage trolley, tipping crates. His first shot slaps metal. My return round shatters his pistol. Second gouges his shoulder. He retreats behind a van, lobs smoke. I ignite a fuel spill. Flames herd civilians to exits. Amid smoke, I push Varga and Patricia toward the terminal. Mark emerges, knife in hand. I toss the empty Glock, draw a collapsible baton. He charges. I sidestep, crack his wrist, sweep his legs. He crashes, gasping. Airport police rush in. I let them cuff us both. Easier to manage narrative from inside. In holding, a liaison offers deals. I claim diplomatic cover. Langley confirms. An hour later, a consular vehicle collects me. Mark heads elsewhere. Rumor says The Hague, but I doubt he arrives intact. Night train to Krakow, seat 7. Patricia and Varga wait with bitter coffee. The professor hands me coordinates for the second lab in Patagonia. The USB holds the lexicon. The key to read it lives there. Patricia breaks the silence to ask whether I believe Mark's warning that the neutrino tongue will rewrite nations. I answer, belief is a luxury, assessment is duty. Yet my eyes stay on the drive as if it might start whispering. We ride until dawn pushes gray light across fields. The word's fluorescent hum echoes in every station bell. Survival is temporary, mission continuous. As the train slows for Krakow-Główny, I pocket the coordinates and reset the countdown. 90 minutes to debrief, 90 hours to Patagonia, 90,000 reasons not to fail. Doors slide open, and Chapter 7 begins. Maya waits in the dim glow of our mother's kitchen, shoulders rigid, fingers white around a mug she hasn't sipped. She looks smaller than the therapist who commandeered a psychiatric ward. Guilt subtracts inches. I close the back door behind me, latch sliding home with the same finality I once reserved for classified briefings. No drone, no extraction team, just two sisters and consequences. You're alive, she breathes, half relieved, half accusing. They said you'd been deployed? Released, I correct, stepping into the light, because the directors you doubted confirmed my identity. I set a slim folder on the table. Nothing classified inside, only redacted memos and the official apology Maya never thought could exist. She scans the black bars, lips moving as if reading a foreign language. You forged these. The protest is weak, a reflex. I don't forge documents for dramatic effect. I slide a second sheet forward, casualty notifications dated 2 days after my commitment, an asset in Berlin, a linguist courier in Yemen. They died because I wasn't where I promised I'd be. Your petition bought the people hunting them a 40-hour head start. Her face drains. You're blaming me for deaths? I'm assigning responsibility. There's a difference. She sinks onto a chair. The mug finally tips, coffee puddling across faded laminate. She doesn't notice. I was trying to save you, she whispers, like a child who's broken a priceless heirloom. From what? A career you never understood? My life demanded secrecy. You mistook it for psychosis. I keep my voice clinical. Detached hurts less. You weaponized diagnostic checklists because they offered an explanation that flattered you. Maya's breathing fractures. You lied for years. To Mom, to me. How was I supposed to believe any of it? You weren't. I pause. Belief was never part of the design. Compliance was. The word lands harder than an accusation. She wipes at tears with the heel of her hand. So all the birthdays you missed, the excuses, they were real missions? Prague, Islamabad, Caracas. I tick them off like prescription refills. Every absence prevented something worse than hurt feelings. Our mother appears in the doorway, gray hair unbound, eyes red from half-heard arguments. Is it true? She asks, voice trembling. Were you working for the government all this time? I nod, and I'm sorry I couldn't tell you, but national security doesn't accommodate family transparency. Mom's hand flutters to her chest. Maya said you were delusional, that you needed help. I needed operational cover, not help. Maya sobs once, sharp and involuntary. They'll revoke my license, she says, staring at the spill spreading toward her lap. Unlawful commitment, breach of confidentiality. My career is over. Likely. I don't soften it. The investigator you hired is under federal review. Your notes on me now reside in a secure evidence locker. She drags her gaze to mine, eyes rimmed crimson. Can you fix it? No. The honesty feels like relief, but you can try to mitigate the damage by cooperating with the inquiry. Full transparency. Transparency, she echoes, a bitter laugh twisting the word. That's rich. A car engine idles outside. Government sedan, quiet, but not covert. I have 10 minutes before debrief at Langley. I pull a small envelope from my pocket and place it beside the ruined coffee. Funds to cover legal counsel, not taxpayer money, my own salary. Maya touches the envelope as if it might burn. Why help me after everything? Because intent matters. I reach for the door. You tried to protect the family. You just misdiagnosed the threat. Mom steps forward, tears tracking down lined cheeks. Will we ever see you again? I'll arrange it. Proper channels this time. I hug her once, gently, then face my sister. Goodbye, Maya. She can't meet my eyes, but her voice follows as I leave. I'm sorry, Elena. Outside, dawn edges the horizon, pale and tentative. The agents in the sedan nod as I slide into the back seat. Files await, operations spin, and the world remains perilous. But the knot between my shoulders loosens. Family fractures may never fully mend, yet truth, however delayed, has finally breached the walls of our mother's house. As we pull away, I allow myself one backward glance. Maya framed in the kitchen window, silhouette blurred by condensation, clutching documents that have rewritten her reality. It's not closure, but in our line of work, few stories end clean. The sedan accelerates toward the highway, and I face forward, recalibrating for the next crisis, knowing that behind me lies a home, forever divided by secrets finally exposed. The morning after our kitchen confrontation, my encrypted briefing tablet illuminates a headline that feels both surreal and inevitable. Therapist commits CIA psychiatrist sister, Career in Ruins After Unlawful Hold. The article lists Maya's full credentials, the Riverside commitment paperwork, and a terse statement from the state licensing board announcing her immediate suspension pending a formal revocation hearing. I read it twice, noting how quickly the board moves when the words federal investigation appear in the subject line of an email. By noon, reporters camp outside our mother's house, cameras angled toward the porch swing where childhood arguments once ended in uneasy truces. Mom draws the curtains, but the lens still finds her silhouette, a private grief projected onto every cable feed. Inside, Maya paces, phone dead from constant calls, eyes hollow. She whispers that she never meant for any of this to happen, that she only wanted me safe. Intent no longer matters, consequences do. An unmarked sedan arrives to collect her for deposition. Federal agents escort her past microphones. A neighbor's gasp punctures the afternoon hush. She turns once, searching for any hint of forgiveness, but I remain behind the curtain. My handler's directive is clear. Emotional distance protects operational clarity. Across town, the private investigator who helped Maya fabricate her case sits before a grand jury. Financial records trace his retainer to a Shell LLC linked to a foreign lobbying group, a discovery that shifts his role from nuisance to national security threat. His lawyer argues ignorance. Prosecutors prefer the word conspiracy. I spend the evening dismantling my Georgetown apartment. Within 48 hours, I must disappear into a new cover identity. Pentagon paperwork lists me as Consultant Behavioral Risk Division, no AA, a title bland enough to fade into bureaucratic wallpaper. I box textbooks, shred clinic files, and leave the minimalist decor that once baffled Maya. Each room echoes as if reluctant to let me go. Family fractures propagate like stress lines through tempered glass. Cousin Roberto texts a single question mark, no context, just confusion. Aunt Carla forwards a link to an op-ed praising Maya's courageous concern before sending a second message apologizing for the first. Thanksgiving seating charts mutate in real time. Alliances form along lines of disbelief and outrage. Mom calls nightly, voice quavering, torn between daughters she no longer understands. I give her practiced reassurances, careful not to disclose classified relocations. The press escalates. Local stations run B-roll of Riverside Psychiatric's facade while pundits debate mental health ethics. A national outlet airs a grainy clip of my extraction, rotors whipping debris across the ward's rooftop. They slow the footage, zooming on my face until pixels blur identity. Proof, they claim, that the government staged a show of force to silence a small-town therapist. Conspiracy forums ignite. For once, their paranoia grazes the truth. Late Sunday, I meet Patricia in a subterranean cafe beneath Union Station. She passes a folded newspaper, an editorial condemning weaponized psychiatry and demanding congressional oversight. Public sentiment swings fast, she says, sipping bitter espresso. Today they defend Maya, tomorrow they question her methods. She places a burner phone on the table, preloaded with my new credentials. I pocket it, gratitude conveyed in a nod that needs no words. Relocation protocol initiates at dawn. I leave my car, once a symbol of inexplicable wealth, parked on a side street with keys on the dash, a quiet surrender to normality. A deputy U.S. Marshal drives me south under a sky the color of unpolished steel. At a secure airfield, a twin-engine turboprop waits, call sign masked on flight manifests. I board with 2 duffels, one of clothes, one of documents that erase Elena Vasquez and conjure Dr. Laura Morales. As wheels lift, I allow myself a final scan of familiar landmarks shrinking below. Somewhere in the city, Maya sits with her attorney preparing for the licensing board's hearing, where words like gross negligence and coercion will rewrite her resume forever. She will likely accept a consent order, public reprimand, heavy fine, permanent loss of practice rights. The board favors swift justice when the media demands spectacle. At cruising altitude, I draft a terse email to Mom using an alias account maintained for emergencies. I tell her I'm safe, that time may soften what truth could not, that I still love her. I do not mention the new name stitched onto my passport or the remote office awaiting me in coastal Maine. Some distances must remain classified. Night settles outside the window, speckled with stars that ignore human scandal. I close my eyes and breathe the recycled cabin air, reciting a cognitive reset mantra. Location, mission, stake. Location, classified. Mission, rebuild operational capacity. Stake, national security, weighted now by the collateral damage of family. When landfall comes, I step onto a quiet tarmac where no cameras wait, only a liaison with a clipboard and a hotel key. Tomorrow, I sign lease papers under my new identity and set up a modest clinic as cover. The cycle begins again: secrecy, service, solitude. Yet the cost of this rotation is heavier. Betrayal cuts deepest when it carries your own blood type. Before sleep, I skim the day's final alerts. Headlines have shifted to another crisis, attention already migrating. But one op-ed lingers. Mental health system must guard against abuse of power. It cites Maya's case as cautionary tale, then quotes an unnamed intelligence official. Sympathy without evidence is a weapon in the wrong hands. I recognize my own interview notes repurposed into public doctrine. I power down the tablet, room dim except for the blinking smoke detector. Consequences ripple outward, licenses lost, identities shed, trust shattered, yet the mission endures. I lie awake listening to the hum of an HVAC unit, cataloging lessons learned. Never underestimate familial zeal, always maintain redundant extraction paths, and remember that truth, once revealed, writes its own headlines. Morning will bring new paperwork, fresh aliases, and another layer of silence. But tonight, I allow myself a single, unclassified admission. The war between secrecy and love leaves no victors, only survivors. The fluorescent hush of the federal courthouse feels like the ward all over again. Controlled lighting, guarded doors, every impulse cataloged before it can surface. But this time, I walk in by choice, polished shoes clicking an even cadence toward courtroom 4B, where my sister's future hangs on a negotiated sentence and a stack of discovery exhibits thick enough to choke on. The docket reads United States versus Maya Vasquez, charges spanning unlawful commitment, conspiracy, and obstruction of national security operations. The plea conference is closed to the public, yet the air thrums with the unspoken presence of reporters camped 2 floors below. They will learn outcomes hours after the fact, sanitized for consumption, never touching the classified marrow that truly matters. The prosecution table holds 3 attorneys in navy suits and 1 pale analyst clutching an evidence binder. Their expressions flicker between zeal and fatigue, the look of professionals who know they're about to win. Maya sits beside her lawyer, wrists free but spirit shackled, hair pulled into a low knot that can't hide the tremor in her shoulders. She glances up, surprised to find me already watching, then drops her gaze to the thin blue folder marked Plea Offer, Amended. Judge Ellison enters, everyone rises, formalities roll forward, calendar reference, defendant identification, acknowledgement of rights waived. When asked how she pleads, Maya's voice barely clears her throat. Guilty, Your Honor. Paper rustles as her counsel tenders the agreement. 3 years in federal custody, 5 on supervised release, license permanently revoked. The judge nods and requests the government's factual basis. Assistant U.S. Attorney Chen recites a narrative distilled from months of investigation. Maya's reckless probe, the private investigator's foreign-funded retainer, the psychiatric hold that sidelined a covert analyst and led to the deaths of 2 Allied field assets and the shuttering of Project Lantern, a program rescuing trafficked minors routed through Eastern Europe. The gallery gasps. Maya flinches as if every syllable carries voltage. I keep still. This is only the prelude. Victim impact statements follow. A translator reads a letter from the mother of a 13-year-old Moldovan girl whose extraction team was ambushed while I sat medicated behind shatterproof glass. The words drip sorrow and restrained fury. Maya presses a tissue to her mouth, eyes brimming. Then it is my turn. I step to the lectern, oath already administered, and meet my sister's stare head on. Dr. Maya Vasquez is not here because she lacked information. I begin, voice steady. She is here because she rejected it. She weaponized clinical authority to validate childhood resentment, and in doing so compromised the safety of operatives and the lives of children who trusted our protection. I detail the 40-hour blackout her commitment created, the coded call that went unanswered, the relay of misinformation that cascaded into lethal missteps, the classified burial of a program Maya never knew existed. I keep the tone factual, no tremor, no vengeance, because the truth, spoken plain, cuts sharper than fury. For that, I conclude, I recommend the maximum sentence permitted under the agreement, Justice demands the precedent. Words fall like gavel strikes. Maya's shoulders fold inward, a house collapsing under its own faulty scaffolding. Judge Ellison requests a recess to review submissions. Counsel disperse to opposite corners. I remain at the rail, conscious of the bailiff's discreet attention. Mother slips through a side door, eyes red, cardigan hanging from frail shoulders. "Elena," she whispers, "she's still your sister." I remember her plea from the kitchen weeks ago, the same quiver, but circumstance has hardened since then. "Family isn't immunity, Mom," I answer, the softness almost audible beneath the resolve. "If I redraw the line for her, it vanishes for everyone." She reaches for my hand. I let her hold it for 3 measured breaths before duty requires distance. Recess ends. The judge reconvenes and pronounces sentence exactly as negotiated. No departures, no leniency. Maya's knees buckle. Her attorney steadies her. She is remanded immediately, marshals guiding her toward the holding corridor. As she passes, she looks up once more, eyes pleading for something unnamed. Absolution, maybe? Or the childhood sister who once shielded her from playground jeers. I offer a slow, contained nod, nothing more. The doors close, and the echo of their latch sounds eerily like the ward's magnetic lock. Downstairs, in a secure conference room, AUSA Chen hands me a sealed report for Langley, stamped derived from court proceedings, noon. "Your recommendation carried weight," she says. "Policy will cite this case for years." I sign receipt, file the envelope in my briefcase. Chen hesitates, then adds, "Off the record, I'm sorry it came to this." I manage a thin smile. In our world, sorry is a luxury we schedule after the damage. She nods, understanding the ledger of necessary costs. Outside, autumn sunlight sketches long bars across the plaza. Reporters converge, questions ricocheting. Was the defendant's sister really? CIA? Will classified evidence ever be released? I move through the throng untouched, badge flashed once to a DHS liaison who clears a path to the curb. A black sedan waits. Inside, Patricia, now assigned liaison to a congressional oversight panel, raises an eyebrow. "You got what you asked for?" she says as the car pulls away. "Justice," I reply. She studies me. "And peace?" I shake my head. The concept feels theoretical, like a treatment protocol never tested. The sedan merges onto the expressway, skyline receding. My phone vibrates with a coded push alert. Transfer orders to Langley at 0600. Debrief regarding Lantern Legacy operations. Work resumes. Grief can queue. I thumb a reply, eyes drifting to the courthouse shrinking behind traffic. Somewhere within its concrete labyrinth, Maya prepares for transport, clutching the reality she labored so hard to deny. Mother will visit, bring rosaries and casseroles, hope for reconciliation. Maybe years from now, letters will travel between aliases, cautious lines that build tentative bridges. But forgiveness, like clearance, is granted only when its holder proves trustworthy. I lean back, let the drone of tires drown the day's echoes. A sister's betrayal has run its legal course. The reckoning demanded by duty is complete. The nation sleeps fractionally safer, unaware of the price exacted in a courtroom where family and country were weighed, and country prevailed, exactly as the oath requires. Dawn slips across the Potomac as I badge through Langley's north entrance under a nameplate few will ever read, but every corridor whispers, Director of Psychological Operations. The promotion arrives with no ceremony, just a retinal scan, a steel door hissing open, and an office carved from reinforced silence. A decade ago, I wrote manuals here. Now I sign them. My first act is to hang a single photograph on the matte gray wall, a blurred rooftop frame of the Riverside extraction, rotors tearing through dusk. It reminds me that every doctrine has a cost. At 0900, I face 40 new recruits in the black glass auditorium. Fresh PhDs meet battle-scarred operators in neat rows, all waiting to learn how minds fracture and realign. I pace the stage, voice steady. Case Study 1, I begin, and project a de-identified timeline. Family intervention, involuntary hold, compromised asset network, federal plea. They don't know the subject is me until I gesture to the scar just visible beneath my collar. Gasps ripple, then notebooks fly open. Lesson 1, your expertise can be weaponized against you. Lesson 2, paranoia is sometimes just pattern recognition performing its job. When a trainee asks how to defend against betrayal by loved ones, I answer, you can't, only mitigate the fallout. Pens halt mid-stroke. truth often lands like a blunt instrument. Lunch is swallowed during a secure call with state. Patricia, now liaison to an interagency task force on disinformation, briefs me on Black Inference's latest PSYOPs campaign. Her voice holds the calm certainty of someone who has been believed at last. We exchange coordinates, requisition teams, and end with the coded phrase we agreed upon after pop-read. Reality is a consensus for sale. Back at my desk, an inmate mail envelope waits, screened, sanitized, delivered through internal courier. Maya's handwriting slants across the front. I hesitate before breaking the seal. Inside, 5 pages of tidy blue ink oscillate between apology and bafflement. She concedes legal guilt, yet still struggles to map intent to consequence. "I never dreamed your delusions were real," she writes, then strikes through delusions and overwrites world. On the final page, she asks whether forgiveness is possible, signing simply, "Your sister." I fold the letter once and file it under pending consideration. Some treatments require extended observation. Evening brings a reception in the 7th floor glass atrium, an unofficial welcome disguised as a joint task briefing. Finger foods, blurred ID badges, polite smiles. My new colleagues toast to sacrifices made in silence, and in their eyes I glimpse the family I never lost, but finally recognize. People who understand that secrets are not lies, merely debts we choose to carry. Later, back in the apartment that came with the promotion, a sterile, high-rise overlooking lights that never sleep, I disable the biometric locks, pour a measure of scotch, and dictate the day's classified log. Voice low, I record assessments, personnel notes, and one personal entry. It is possible to build a new Unrubble, provided you keep the blueprints hidden. Before sleep, I draft a reply to Maya. I tell her federal prison offers rehabilitation programs. She should enroll in ethics seminars, keep a journal, learn to sit with silence. I do not offer absolution. That currency remains inflated. Yet I close with a truth she once denied. I loved you enough to trust you with nothing. I hope one day you'll understand why. The letter will be vetted, redacted, delivered, or not according to institutional whim, but writing it loosens a knot beneath my ribs. The city hums beyond the window, mirroring the ward's fluorescent pulse, but without cages. Tomorrow, a Senate subcommittee will demand testimony on covert psychological programs, and I will provide it, in classified session with names masked and motives trimmed. The Republic needs its monsters plausible, not visible. I power down the lights. In the dark, I trace the office key in my palm and accept the paradox. The deeper the shadow, the sharper the outline of those who stand inside it, willingly. This is the new normal. Secrets worn like armor, family redefined by shared clearance levels, love measured in controlled disclosures. If this story of loyalty, betrayal, and classified redemption resonates, please like this video and subscribe. It really means a lot. We'll see you next time. 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 We'll see you